everyone. Welcome. This is Ori. I'm the co-founder of Orca, the most user-friendly DEX on Solana. And welcome to our first ever Twitter space. Today, I'm really excited to welcome Roeland Monasch. Please tell me if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, Roeland. The CEO of Aflatoun International, an organization that delivers social and financial education to young people all over the world. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Ori. Thanks for having me and greetings from Amsterdam. You got my name very well done.
Perfect. I'm really glad. You know, sometimes you see the name and you're like, I'm just going to do my best with this one. But yeah, we are really, really gratified to have you here with us today. I know our community is really excited for the launch of Orcanauts, and a big reason for that is the fact that Orca will be taking none of the mint revenue. 25% goes to the artist, but the vast majority, that 75%, is going to go to the development of a brand new DeFi and crypto education endeavor in partnership with you. And so I'd love to give our community the chance to learn a little bit more about Aflatoun and the work that you have planned. But Roeland, do you want to start just by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a specialist on children and international development. Over the past 20 years, I've worked for organizations like UNICEF, the World Health Organization, on issues related to child health, vaccination, medical supplies, malaria, bed nets distribution. Also in the area of education, getting children into school and protection of the most vulnerable children, issues like child labor, teenage pregnancies, and child marriage. During my life, I've moved around quite a lot, worked in different places like Bhutan, Pakistan in Asia, or Zambia and Lesotho in Africa, but also at the United Nations headquarters in New York and Geneva. During my last 3 international postings, I was the UNICEF director in Zimbabwe. I led a large, complex humanitarian operation. In Georgia, I led the team closing all the former Soviet orphanages, and most recently in Sierra Leone, I led the Ebola response. During these years, I came to the realization that there was something really important missing in making children more resilient. We were always resolving problems, but I felt there was a way and a need to empower children to take control of their own life. And in reality, in Asia, Africa, and many other places, the majority of young people will not get a job with the corporate sector or the government. They have to start enterprising themselves. But no one is preparing them for this. And I really felt there was an urgent need to empower children with social and financial skills. There is a need to talk with children and young people about their future and about money before they drop out of school. So I left the United Nations and joined Aflatoun 5 years ago to test and roll out the concept of child social and financial education around the world.
Wow. You really have had quite the career. I'm really honored that we have the chance to partner with someone who's had the chance to dive so deep into this particular mission, since, you know, we kind of had the idea of working on something related to financial literacy or financial education, but to be honest, we didn't know where to start. So when we found Aflatoun, we were pretty amazed that that mission was almost exactly what we were looking for.
Yeah, we think alike, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have a little bit of background in education in that I started my career in ed tech, but I think being on the ground, the way that you all have is really entirely different. And so I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about how exactly you define social and financial education, and how you defined your mission this way, and who exactly is your target audience?
Basically, our mission is to socially and economically empower children and young people so they become sort of agents of change in their own lives, but also contribute to their community for a more equitable world. What we do when we talk about the concept of social and financial education, we take children through a process on sort of a personal understanding and exploration. Who am I? What are my dreams? How am I going to fulfill these dreams and achieve my dreams? But then embed them in their community, in society. So talk about their rights and responsibilities, make them understand what they can expect from society, but what society also can expect from them. But then we really need to give them practical tools. So we have to talk about saving, responsible spending, how to make a plan and a budget. You really need those skills in order to become successful and engaged in your community. And then finally learning by doing. So we form clubs with children and young people to set up social and financial enterprises. So in a nutshell, basically, we teach children and young people how they can use money to take care of their lives and make a contribution to their families and communities. And we do that through interactive lesson material. We work in primary schools, secondary schools, universities, but also we work with vulnerable children out of school, who've dropped out. Our target is basically all children in the world. We're active in over 100 countries, as you mentioned. It's from Amsterdam to Amman, from New York to New Delhi, from Durban to Dubai. The aim is basically to reach every child if possible.
That's frankly pretty incredible. And it's kind of hard for me to imagine just the wide range of different projects that I know that you've worked on. And so I wonder if you could tell us about one project specifically that Aflatoun's worked on that you personally feel really proud of.
It's difficult to choose. We have over 300 projects around the world, but maybe one or two examples. In the Philippines, we have a network of 500 local financial cooperatives who work with their local schools, and we have an agreement with the Department of Education. And they're teaching social and financial education in the schools. They're empowering the teachers. And the children learn about saving and responsible spending in the school. And through the financial cooperatives, they are also able to open their first bank account. And at the moment, as we speak, more than 500,000 children haven't opened an account this way. On the other side is another example in Brazil. We have several projects in the poor, violent favelas where adolescent girls come together in safe spaces to empower them to learn about money and get self-confidence. And when you see how these young women take control of their lives, I get a smile on my face. But to be honest, Ori, at a higher level, what I'm most proud of probably is the fact that the concept of financial education is now becoming an acceptable mainstream topic. When we talked about money and children 10 years ago, it was a big taboo. Financial education was perceived as not important, and secondly, not something to be taught in the school, but something you learn from your parents in the household. But the reality was, and actually is still, is that many parents live in poverty because they themselves do not understand money. So, and today it has become a much more acceptable and mainstream concept. So I wish to believe that Aflatoun and his partners have contributed to this change in mindset and make it a more acceptable topic.
Interesting. I didn't know that there was this perception that financial education was something that could even be taboo. What do you think has really caused that shift to come about?
Well, a big shift has probably been COVID itself, COVID-19, in the sense that you've seen the pictures of the food lines everywhere in New York, in Switzerland, in New Delhi, in South Africa. People were caught by surprise. People were not prepared, were not resilient. And so there's a sort of realization of governments that there needs to be much more investment in building resiliency among families and communities, and then you need to talk about money and need to talk about finance.
Definitely. That makes sense. And I can especially see, as you mentioned, how it's pretty groundbreaking for folks in a lot of these countries where opening an account is not necessarily an easy thing, right? I personally worked on a project for sort of an impact consulting type project in Indonesia as well, where a large amount of the population still doesn't have access to a bank account. And I can see how there is a huge gap because now they're starting to use digital money as well, and going from having essentially just cash all the time to digital money with like no bank account in between is also sort of a big shift. So I'm curious if you've worked on any projects related to sort of digital finance so far as well.
Yeah, the digital finance is an extremely important subject at the moment. As we speak, the increase in digital connectivity, mobile phones among young people, and digital finance as indeed is a huge innovation. We do a lot of financial education, specifically in helping vulnerable groups who suddenly are getting access to the financial services, but are digitally illiterate, financially illiterate. So we make custom-made packages for these digital finance initiatives so that indeed those most vulnerable are also able to access finance in a meaningful way.
What regions do you especially see this digital finance curriculum being relevant to?
To be honest, it's needed in all regions, but what we're seeing at the moment, we have a high activity in Asia, in Sub-Saharan Africa, and Latin America in the area of digital finance.
Yeah, I think that understanding that you already have of where the most valuable areas are to target is something that I'm really grateful for. You know, crypto is very global and our users are very global, but actually at the same time, it's actually quite difficult sometimes to tell where people actually are and where people have the greatest need. And so I think one of the things that's really interesting about our space is that there's a lot of room for reward in the sense of financial reward, but also really incredible risk. And so I see this education as something that is a moral responsibility for DeFi projects and crypto projects to consider, but our space is frankly just starting to think about. This is kind of your first time working with cryptocurrency in any way?
Yes, and in a very practical way. We've been orienting ourselves, of course, in the area as we need to innovate as Aflatoun as well. This is the first time we're stepping in, and I'm very excited to work with Orca on this topic.
Same here. I mean, I think it's really a dream come true for us to think about having this kind of impact beyond just like our app itself. You know, we already donate to climate change via our impact fund, which we've discussed before. But this is also, I think, something that is pretty personally meaningful to me. And so I wonder if you could tell us actually a bit more about what we have planned for the money that we're going to be donating through Orcanauts.
Yeah, sure. It's happy to share the ideas and the plans. You were just mentioning the digital finance. It's a big growing topic, and the reality is that there is a very large group of young people are accessing digital finance, but they're basically financially illiterate. And let alone, most of them are completely unfamiliar with blockchain and cryptocurrency and the opportunities and the challenges around it. So the plan is to work with the money donated through the Orcanauts is developing, first of all, a new curriculum for teachers and students to introduce the concept of digital finance, blockchain, cryptocurrency. Topics will include, for example, a brief history of cryptocurrency, blockchain, the evolution of money, digital finance, cybersecurity, the risks and the opportunities, and how cryptocurrency is changing the financial world in general. It really should ensure the curriculum that the young people make a well and balanced, informed decisions when they engage. After we've developed this curriculum, we will then test the tools in different regions in the world. So the idea is to go to partners in Asia, Latin America, Middle East, and we aim to reach at least 25,000 young people during this pilot phase to see if the curriculum is working. And once we have tested it, we will fine-tune the curriculum and the training tools, and then we will start the dissemination and the rollout. And the idea is to do this in all regions of the world. So it will also be available, aside from English, the curriculum in Spanish, in French, Russian, Portuguese, Arabic, Chinese, and hopefully also Hindi. And ultimately, then we will train master trainers, because we really want to have a large reach in these different languages, in these different regions, who will train organizations and teachers and the students, of course.
Yeah, I think I really can't overstate how excited I am, that especially that it's really going to have this global reach and is going to be localized, because right now, I think DeFi is still limited in a lot of ways to a pretty English-speaking audience, since a lot of projects only offer their offerings in English. And so I think there's a long way to go as we start like onboarding people in more and more countries. But I wonder if you could tell us also what the timeline is roughly for the pilot program.
Yeah, we are basically ready to go. So the idea is that in the initial months, we will have the development of the curriculum, as I mentioned. That needs, of course, engagement of some of the experts in the field. And then once that's ready, we will go out to testing it in a number of countries in different regions in the world. That will probably take about 3 to 6 months. And after the fine-tuning, later in 2022, we will then start the rollout.
Amazing. I think something that's like really interesting about this as well, for everyone who's involved, is that like it's especially focused on kids, pretty much, right? Is there, when you say like children, is there sort of an age range that you have in mind?
Initially, the target is the adolescents and young people. And because they need it most urgently, and because there's so much to share and so much to learn, that's the priority group. That's also the group who is most likely to engage among the age group we work on. And they also need most urgently to be informed on the opportunities and the challenges.
That makes a lot of sense. I think it's also especially kind of funny to me because crypto is kind of infamous for being very, very young as a space. There's a lot of people who basically, we say aped into, but kind of just like jumped into the space when they were very, very young. And some people, did well and got very, very rich very, very quickly, which is also sort of something that I think you need a lot of emotional maturity to handle. And then other people didn't do so well. And so I can only imagine how different things would have been maybe for those people who ended up taking on risks that didn't work out if they had the opportunity to have a little bit more financial education as adolescents.
Absolutely, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. It's really important that these young people who engage in this field, which is very new for most of them, that they're really well informed before they engage.
And, DeFi education and crypto education does definitely exist. And we even have a couple of educators who we've introduced who are through our network of friends and investors. But to my knowledge, this kind of crypto and DeFi education is generally aimed at like job seekers, people who are already adults, essentially folks who are in a pretty different age range than what we're going to be targeting with Aflatoun. So could you tell me a little bit about how you generally adapt curriculum for topics like this to a younger audience?
A key characteristic of Aflatoun and the way we work is our very active learning methodology. So it's really engaging teachers engaging with students and in a very empowering way, where critical questions are being asked, very playful interaction. It's not the old school classroom where the teacher speaks and the students listen. So and that methodology will also be used in the curriculum we're developing with you guys. And then, of course, the local contextualization is essential. It's not that it's a standard book which will be rolled out in all countries in the world. It needs to be adjusted to the specific needs in each country. Of course, there's also in some countries some policies and frameworks around the topic. So those ones also need to be incorporated when we roll it out.
Definitely. Yeah, I think regulation is going to be a tricky one, to be honest, since it's also something that's constantly changing and not very well defined yet from country to country. And so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of like finding the right folks who can give sort of insight on the regulatory restrictions around that as well. How would you love to see this program evolve personally? Like, what's exciting to you about it?
Well, first of all, it's exciting because at Aflatoun we need to innovate, and this is a moment for us to innovate in this area, and that's why again we are very excited to work with you guys. Secondly, you remember I mentioned before that 10 years ago there was a big taboo on financial education for children. At the moment, that similar taboo is actually around blockchain and cryptocurrency, and
Yeah.
we're seeing that with the DeFi education as well. In most countries, large parts of society are afraid, confused, and reluctant when it comes to cryptocurrency. And it seems that many policymakers still have the hope that if they don't talk about it, it might go away.
Yeah.
There is an ignorance and unwillingness to talk about it. And we feel that young people have the right to learn and understand about it. And if we don't do it, they will be going somewhere else and get information from entities that have alternative motives. So it's really important that young people are well informed on this topic. As I mentioned, for many, it's still very foreign. And therefore, it's our hope that the rollout will be a positive contribution to young people and DeFi education. And at the same time, I think it may contribute to the debate and actually help demystify DeFi education, not only for the young people, but also for the teachers, the adults, and the policymakers.
That's a really great point, too. As you were speaking, I was actually just thinking how it's actually sort of the two extremes of the age spectrum that perhaps need this education the most. All the time, my parents try to ask me to explain what I'm doing at Orca, and I struggle to find the words, especially in Chinese. But, I think there's just a huge knowledge gap for us to navigate. But for young people, I agree, it's ultimately the most pressing because we're even going to see, I think, more and more people have their livelihoods be very tied up in cryptocurrency, right? Like the Philippines you mentioned earlier, it's a place where we're seeing this play to earn model really take off, which is obviously very related to NFTs and DeFi. And so I think there could be some interconnections that we could explore around, how crypto and DeFi and gaming actually all become a part of people's like everyday income as well.
Yeah, there are huge opportunities. And again, I also see it as a responsibility because it's really important that we reach out and prepare these young people for this very rapidly changing environment for them.
Definitely. Yeah, I think something that's going to be really, really fun for all of the Orcanauts holders as well, knowing that they've contributed to this mission, is to continue getting these updates. And so what's the best way for people actually to follow along with what's going on with Aflatoun as a wider organization?
Yeah, different ways. Of course, we have a Twitter account as well, and we're active in the social media. The team here, we also probably we will do a dissemination with Orca on how the implementation is going, and so hopefully by them following you on your end, they will be informed as well. But we're very keen and enthusiastic about sharing it with the Orcanauts.
Yeah, the whole Orcanautical community. We're going to be setting up a gated channel in the Discord just for Orcanauts holders, holding a lot of special events in there. We also have a lot of exciting ideas planned, both around sponsoring future art featuring the Orcanauts, as well as actually development on top of the Orcanauts, which could in the future be a little bit more tied into the actual DeFi parts of the decks. So definitely hope you guys are excited about those aspects as well. But as Roeland mentioned, one thing that we're definitely going to do is give you guys regular updates on how this DeFi education program is going. So you'll be able to see the actual impact of that around the world. I think that's pretty much all we have time for today. I know I want to be respectful. So thank you so much for joining us today, Roeland.
Yeah, thank you, Ori, and the team at Orca. We really appreciate this collaboration. We're very excited about working with you, your community, and the fantastic Orcanauts. We are confident that together we can make a difference in the lives of many young people in this field.
We absolutely feel the same way. So again, everyone here in the Twitter space, thank you so much for joining us. If you find this mission inspiring, don't miss the chance to adopt your very own Orcanaut this Saturday, November 27th at orcanauts.orca.so. All the information about the mint, or adoption as we're calling it, is on the orcanauts.orca.so website, including the times and the eligibility. We do have a slight discount and early round for people who are existing users of Orca. So hope many of you guys that applies. So please do take a look. And once again, thanks again for being here. It's been a splash.